October 2018, a month I'll never forget. Why? Because that was the month I nearly took my own life. Now, if you watch one of my previous videos, I mentioned that I would talk about this in the following month in November, and here we are. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about my near deletion attempt, and then I wanna talk to you guys about what I learned during that somewhat of a crisis, and some things that I think we, especially us men, can learn from with situations such as. If you are currently going through something, a mental health crisis of the sort, I just wanna let you know that first of all, you're not alone. There are thousands, if not millions of people that are going through similar situations that might be mentally distressing or taxing. And in addition to that, there are people out there that you can talk to. I know a lot of us guys don't have support groups. A lot of us spend time alone, but I make this kind of content, especially self-improvement content, in hopes that we can create a community and congregate with one another. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about it. 2018. Man, I was in such a terrible relationship at the time, which I would say honestly was partly my fault. You know, I wasn't leading like a man should be. I wasn't being cooperative and things of that nature. Granted, she had some things that she was doing that was affecting the relationship as well, but I'm not one of the men or one of those kind of guys that is going to automatically put the blame on the woman solely. It takes two to tango in this world, and I was part of that debacle. So a lot of the, if not some of the responsibility also falls on me. But as my relationship was crumbling, my relationship with my coworkers was crumbling as well. My relationship with my family was also deteriorating at a rapid rate. Throughout all of that and throughout all my struggles, I really felt like I was useless. So at the time, I was a personal trainer, still a personal trainer. In fact, we do have personal training options available, but that's for another topic for another day. I was working at a gym in the New York area. And while I was working there, I was kind of hitting my peak, right? So I had a lot of clients, a lot of things were clicking for me. I was really well known in the gym. I was helping people left and right. I felt like I was useful. And then once I got into my relationship, I kind of got sidetracked, I got distracted. And throughout that time during my relationship, as I started losing my focus with my work ethic and everything else, that had some dramatic effects on my life, and then I ended up losing my job. So from there, the dynamic of the relationship immediately shifted. Things started going from bad to worse, whereas I went from being a personal trainer with over nearly 50 people in my book at any given moment during the week to now working as a pizza delivery man, which this isn't any disrespect to any delivery drivers out there. Shout out to you guys. I definitely tip you well also. But, you know, going from what I felt like was a high point in my life to now delivering pizzas, that was definitely one of my lowest points in my life. And things went from bad to worse as my car started getting damaged. I started getting tickets. All these tickets and bills started mounting up, and I was trying to play catch up with most of my financial responsibilities. This started putting a damper on not only my mental health, but my relationships as well. So as we started arguing more and more, in addition to that, I started losing my interest for my music passion, which was honestly one of my first loves. Between fitness and music, those are the things that I love to do. In fact, you can still find my music on Apple Music and Spotify as well. Just type in Drew Paris, or feel free to do a YouTube search. I was signed to a small label in Canada at the time, but they dropped me because I wasn't making any music. So as you could tell, my life was slowly going to shit. So it all came to a head at some point during October 2018 when we had gone out to a Halloween party. It was just like a small get together at a local bar in the New York area. And during that time, we got into an argument, and we stepped outside. The argument escalated, and she ended up leaving me in Brooklyn, and I was essentially stranded because I was somewhat far from home. And that's when I kind of just had like a meltdown, you know. I started harassing people out in the street. If I seen couples, I started getting into arguments with them. I was really just becoming a menace and slowly deteriorating from a mental standpoint. And it was pretty evident to see. The person I am now is starkly different than who I was. But during that time, if you had seen me in those moments, you'd be like, whoa, what the fuck is going on with you? But you know, between losing my job, which I felt was my passion and my love, losing my musical passion, losing my relationships, deteriorating friendships, all those things just culminated into my mindset of being like, okay, well, I'm actually fucking useless. Like I'm not of use to anyone. I don't enrich anyone's life. I don't make an impact on anyone like I used to. So what is the point of me being here? I made my way down to the train tracks. And as I was walking down the train tracks, I was running into people along the way, trying to instigate, start fights and things of that nature. Really things that weren't conducive to my growth. Or at the time, I didn't realize that these were learning moments. Now that I could reflect on them as an older man, I can now realize the error of my ways at that point in time. But I made my way down the subway tracks, and I hopped the turnstile. I wasn't giving New York my $2.50 at the time. That was the price. Made my way to the train tracks, and I waited. I waited for the train to come. I heard the noises. I heard the screeching. I knew the train was shortly going to arrive, so it was only a matter of time before I decided to jump in front of it. And while I was waiting there, 2 police officers actually came down the steps. And I know that there's a whole big thing about police officers and how apparently some people feel that all cops are bad, which is not my standpoint, especially with the things that I've gone through. These 2 officers, shout out to them. If you ever see this video, I want to say thank you so much for saving my life, because you did. And they came down and they spoke to me. Originally, when I first seen them, I thought, oh great, I could die by deletion by cop. That would be a +1, because not only would people not think that I took my own life, but they would blame it on the police officers. I gotta be frank and say, by the grace of God, the 2 officers came down and they spoke to me, and I just had a whole breakdown. Because, one thing that I realized as a man is that no one ever asks you how you're doing. A lot of the times as men, we face a lot of these challenges on our own, and we have no choice but to sit there and ruminate in our own feelings. So while I was going through my crisis, I really didn't have anyone who could help me out at that time. But when I ran into those 2 officers, they came down, they looked at me, they're like, we heard you were causing a menace in the streets, which I absolutely was. Once again, shout out to them for being gracious and being willing to help me at the time. And they just asked me, they were like, what's wrong? And I swear, man, those two words alone just broke me completely. And, I started crying, I started sobbing, and I just explained to them what was going on. And the older officer was an older gentleman. He's like, we've run into these things a lot, and I'll tell you exactly what I tell everybody else. And the simple fact is, things do get better over time. And they did. They absolutely did. But, from that moment, I wasn't exactly sure how things would get better, but I was willing to trust in his words. And I thought to myself, like, I'm way too young to consider taking my own life, so why not give myself another chance, And I leaned up against the wall. The train came and passed, and my legs, as much as I wanted to jump in front of the train, my legs just wouldn't let me. They felt weak, so I just buckled under the weight of my own body, and I slid down the wall. And that was pretty much it. The train went by, I didn't jump, and it gave me a moment to reflect. Now, all things considered, here are some of the things that I learned throughout that time, because from that point to where I am right now, my life has changed dramatically. First things first, fitness was one of those things that kept me in check from a mental standpoint. I wasn't big on cardio. I always used to weightlift. I was a personal trainer, but I was never into cardio that much. So I started incorporating more cardio. And ironically enough, I found that when I was doing cardio and I was running, that was a great chance for me to clear my head, get some mental space, and really understand and analyze some of the things that I felt like I was going through. And from that point, I started working on my nutrition. And then one thing just led to another. I started feeling better, started thinking better, I had more clarity. And then I just felt life opening up to me and giving me more options. And one thing that I think we could all take from those moments in crisis is that if we can focus on what we want, in other words, think to ourselves like, okay, what is going wrong in my life right now? And what do I want to improve on? We can make gradual small changes, because again, the reality is, although for women, the suicide rate is slowly climbing, for men, it's always been high. And I think it will continue to be high, if not probably go higher given the current state of us all. Now, there's this one channel that I watch, you guys should definitely check it out. It's called What If Alt Hist, and he covers a lot of like the current sociological issues and problems that society has at this present moment in time. And he also reflects and speaks on history as well. I think it's a great channel. And in one of his videos, he mentions the coming mental health crisis that we're all going to face at some point, if not through our own individual selves, but through proxy by society itself, right? And what I think about when I think about mental health is I think about a bunch of people or a bunch of individuals who do not take the time to properly ruminate over some of the issues that they might be having, or give themselves the opportunity to create some solutions for some of these issues. So for me, fitness was definitely one of those opportunities and the activity that gave me the space and the clarity needed in order for me to ruminate on those issues, figure out what the problems were, and then come to a solution. The second thing that really helped me was art, or just something creative. Now, I know as a lot of us guys, we're not necessarily into the arts or things of that nature, but it doesn't have to be art. It doesn't have to be anything that I'm even suggesting, but what I would suggest to you is that find something that will give you some sort of purpose, or give you that sense of purpose. You know, for me, I'm now at a point where I get to make commissioned art from time to time. I've had people buy my art, which is pretty cool, whether that be music, writing, or my actual paintings. It gives me a sense of pride in knowing that my hands could create something that other people might find value. Now, for you, that might be a completely different case. It could be doing handyman work. It could be doing some volunteer work, whatever the case may be. Find something that will give you the sense of usefulness, because as men, that's something that we need in ourselves. We need, in order to be productive in society, we need to feel useful. So we have to create things that other people can gravitate to and find value in the things that we bring to the world or bring to the table, right? So fitness, being creative. The next thing I would say is reading. Reading definitely helped me because it taught me a lot of things through proxy by learning from other people. So I've read a lot of self-improvement books. I've read a lot of spiritual books. I've read a lot of mental health books. And all of these things gave me what I would suggest, or what I would say, sorry for the misspeak, what I would say would be like the recipe for better mental health. I'm no psychologist, right? I'm not that guy who's gone through years and years of schooling and who can identify what someone might be going through from a mental health perspective. I can only give you the things that I feel have helped me and try to give you some sort of suggestion. Now, obviously, I would definitely recommend going to see a licensed therapist. For men, I find it a little hard to say go see a therapist, because what I've learned is sitting down and talking to someone about your problems doesn't necessarily help you. I think men could always find some sort of strength in not only community, but also in activity. And if you could fuse the two together where you can be active and ruminate through your problems, now we're actually getting somewhere. So fitness, creativity, learning, those three things definitely help me. And the last one I would say is spirituality. Spirituality played a big role in my mental health recovery, simply because, at least in my opinion, I feel like if we're not attached to something that is somewhat greater than ourselves, then we have this tendency to just see life for what it is. And of course, life is mainly physical, but I would be remiss if I were to say that there isn't a spiritual element to our lives. You know, there's a lot of things that we can't see or can't understand behind the scenes. And not trying to be all woo-woo with you, but we have to have the understanding that there is something that's working on our behalf at a grander scale. And for me, going back to my spiritual roots and not necessarily praying to the God or the God that everyone claims, but more so just finding and connecting and being in tune with myself from a spiritual perspective has definitely helped me with mental health. Now, it's been a while since my last self-deletion attempt. It was 2018. It's been about nearly 5 going on 6 years now. So last month was my 5 or 6 year anniversary. Sometimes I forget. I wanted to make this video as raw as possible, full of mistakes, full of what some might deem as misspeak, you know, but I want it to be honest, because that's what it is. You know, a lot of guys try to shrug off mental health. Like, you'll hear guys like Andrew Tate, like, depression isn't real. And in some respects, he's kind of right. Depression necessarily isn't real per se. but it is definitely something that a lot of men face, and we often face it alone. Regardless of what you do, obviously something positive, don't delete yourself, but regardless of what you do to help yourself feel better, do it. I know this video is not it's not the best spoken. I'm sorry if it's not coming off as motivational, but I kind of just wanted to have this moment with you to let you know that although we might be different, whether that be in ethnicity, social status, or even monetary status, we all go through challenges. You know, no human is different from the other in a sense that they are impervious to mental health issues. We all go through it, whether you feel lonely, depressed, angry, whatever. Emotions are a part of the human experience, but it's what we do with those emotions and how we use those emotions that ultimately affects not only our lives, but the people around us as well. So in closing, and let me know in the comments if you feel like this was scatterbrained or if it did or didn't bring value to you. Side note, let me know what you guys want me to talk about. Like, I want to make more self-improvement content, but I want to make self-improvement content that actually helps you. So in the comments, feel free to let me know. If you've got my Instagram, follow me on Instagram at Maison des Rois. Feel free to send me a DM on some topics you want me to talk about, but I want to be of value to you. You know, I've gone through a lot of things in my life. I'm at a very great place in my life. I'm a full-time model. I run my own fitness business company. I'm a personal trainer in real life. And then I also have a podcast as well. And I've got some beautiful blossoming relationships that I feel like men deserve. Everyone deserves to have a good life. Fuck, there's no other way to put that shit. Everyone deserves a good life. And it doesn't mean you have to be rich, but you should be rich in relationships, rich in spirit, and rich in health. And I want to be able to provide you guys some sort of solution or suggestions in order to get you going in that route. And in closing, I want to say again, you are worth it. Don't let anyone tell you different. There's a lot of femcels out there that absolutely hate men. They feel like men are the scum of the earth and men are absolutely not worth putting in the time, or they're not worth being productive members of society. But it's not only do I feel like it's my job, but it's my hope that as I continue to make these videos, we can shine a light on men from a positive perspective, show the world that men do have a lot of things to offer, and then encourage the younger generation to step up and become the men that we know we're supposed to be. Leaders, thoughtful, educational, and on top of that, a great human being. So you're not alone. You are supposed to be on this earth for a reason. You have to discover that reason though. And more importantly, you have a job to do, and that is to make a contribution to the rest of the world as well. So once again, my apologies if this video is a little scatterbrained. I just wanted to make a quick video for you guys and just let you know that life can be good. On the other side of that depression and that loneliness and everything else that you're feeling, if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to face your demons and not run from them, from like alcohol or drugs and things of that nature, if you're willing to put in that work, life can be good for you. So that is all the time I got for you guys today. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by and listening. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your engagement. Share this video, like this video, subscribe to the channel, all that YouTube shit. Once again, if you guys want specific self-improvement videos, I'm more than happy to make them. You let me know what I can do to help bring more value to your life and more value to your viewership. Until next time, I'll see you in one of my crazy dating reaction videos or in another self-improvement video. But till then, be well, and I'll see you soon. Peace.